This first reading is from Rays of the One Light, these are parallel commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita, written by Swami Kriyananda. Truth is one and eternal. Oh, sorry. It is, but I should read the title of the topic. This week's topic is, Do You Need a Guru? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. Many people scoff at the idea of having a guru. True to human nature generally, they make a virtue of their scoffing. I am responsible for what I do, they announce, responsible for my mistakes as well as for my victories. What would I ever learn if I handed over my development to someone else? To depend on another for guidance would be an act of spiritual cowardice. It would be understandable for someone gifted with some trivial ability, for instance with words, to insist on doing his crossword puzzle himself, without letting anyone else help him. But supposing, even in such trivial matters, he had no such gift, what virtue would there be in refusing to learn? For that matter, moreover, where do our gifts come from? They are not a native ability. Still, crossword puzzles are hardly an important challenge. What if a person wanted to do something daring, to climb a cliff, for instance, but refused to study the art of mountain climbing? He would climb at the risk of his life. And how much more is risked than physical life in the great adventure of the divine search, where the risk is to salvation itself? Where is the sacrifice in seeking guidance? Even a mountain guide wouldn't presume to do one's climbing for one. His purpose would be only to help the neophyte to climb safely. To have a wise guru is not a sign of weakness, but of plain common sense. All the saints, aware as they are of the hazards on the adventure, agree on the importance of having a guide or guru. And these are the heroes speaking, not cowards or spiritual weaklings. Jesus emphasized the importance of having a teacher by asking John to baptize him. In the Gospel of St. Matthew we read of his coming to John. Thus Jesus said to John, "It becometh us to fulfill all righteousness." In the Bhagavad Gita, the 4th chapter, Krishna says, "Open thyself to those who have attained wisdom. They will be thy teachers. Ask questions of them, both verbally and mentally. Serve them faithfully and with devotion." How is the devotee to recognize one who has attained wisdom? The Bhagavad Gita gives us this inspiring description of the sage. By this sign is he known, being of equal grace to comrades, friends, chance comers, strangers, lovers, enemies, aliens and kinsmen, loving all alike, evil or good. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om. And this is from Whispers from Eternity. This is Master's invocation to the manifestations of God in the temples of great lives. And he begins with my Guru. Thou light of my life, thou camest to spread wisdom's glow over the path of my soul. Centuries of darkness dissolved before the shafts of thy luminous help. As a naughty baby I cried for my Mother Divine, and she came to me as my Guru, Swami Sri Yukteswar. At that meeting, O my Guru, a spark flew from thee, and the faggots of my God craving, gathered through incarnations, smoldered and blazed into bliss. All my questions have been answered with thy flaming golden touch. Eternal, ever-present satisfaction has come to me through thy glory. My Guru, thou voice of God, I found thee in response to my soul cries. Slumbers of sorrow are gone, and I am awake in bliss. If all the gods are displeased, yet thou art pleased. I am safe in the fortress of thy pleasure. And if all the gods protect me behind the parapets of their blessings, yet I receive not thy benedictions. I am an orphan, left to pine spiritually in the ruins of thy displeasure. O Guru, thou didst bring me out of the bottomless pit of darkness into the paradise of peace. Our souls met after years of waiting. They trembled with an omnipresent thrill. We met here because we had met before. Together we will fly to his shores, where we will smash our planes of finitude forever and vanish into infinite life. I bow to thee as the spoken voice of silent God. I bow to thee as the divine door which leads to the temple of salvation. I bow to thee, to thy master, Lahiri Mahashai, harbinger of yoga in Benares, and I lay the flowers of my devotion at the feet of Babaji, our supreme master. On this question of do you need a guru, there is a story which is now famous of how Swami Kriyananda was asked by someone rather sort of aggressively in India, do you think I need a guru? And clearly, the person's own question was, and their own answer to their own question was self-evident. And Swamiji said, no, you don't need a guru. And excellent, just as I thought. He didn't say that, but I wonder if he thought it. But Swamiji said, it's only if you want God, then you need a guru. For years before Swamiji had this interaction, we didn't have this story, and so we didn't quote it. But now it's become sort of the answer for that. It's really true. If you want God, then you need a guru. Of course, we have to ask ourselves, what does it even mean to want God? Really? I mean, we sort of understand that there are saints who have found God, and they seem like they're doing pretty well, so maybe that's a thing we should pursue too. It's not that. It's that we find that as it's a really an innate hunger for truth, an innate hunger for joy, something that's in us. You see, Master said it's not enough for man to have all of his needs met, shelter and food and whatever else, that will be satisfying, which some philosophies say that is all that's needed. But he said wisdom too is a native hunger. And joy also, because even animals, are sometimes regarded as, well, as long as they have food and a place to stay, they are perfectly, content, and that's all they seek. But you see animals playing all the time. You see dogs playing together. You see cats. If you put something on the edge of a countertop and the cat is sitting on it, the cat will knock it off onto the floor and watch it. If you put it back, the cat will knock it off again. I mean, what reason could there be? Well, this is part of my survival, just in case. I mean, obviously not. Especially young animals. They love to play with things. It's a natural part. And so it's an important thing for us to remember as adults, because we see children playing all the time, and that's fine because they didn't have to worry about filing their ITRs yesterday. Today even. But they don't have the worries that we adults have or the responsibilities. But we need to play just as much. It's a natural state, you could say, eating, sleeping, working, playing. And playing is not the same thing as relaxing even. Being actively engaged and it's something that you really enjoy, not just simply, well, I'm not asleep and I'm not working. You see, there's more to it than that. And so we saw this with Swamiji all the time, that he would work extremely hard. I've never known anyone to work harder than he would work, both in terms of duration but also intensity. And he was very strict, for the most part, about focusing on one project, bringing it to completion before going on to the next. In his case, a lot of the work was on books. As I was saying earlier this morning, the music came more naturally to him, meaning the melodies came freely. But to write the words took some time. But even then, it's a song that, is only so long versus a book, which is so many pages. Having said that, there was one book that just wrote itself through him, the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, Master's commentaries on the Gita. He wrote the whole book, 600 pages, in less than 2 months. I mean, it was just unbelievable how it just poured out of him, he said. He did some editing afterwards. He worked a lot on editing generally, and on this book, though, it had come out just so clearly, and it's a thrill to read that book. So that was amazing, and it was a relief to me, because we had always heard of these commentaries. I had tried to read the one published version of the commentaries, and I was not very successful in getting through it. And then to have Swamiji's expression. Swamiji was with Master when he was creating those commentaries. And if you go to see the original manuscript that when it was first typed out, you see it's all typed out as Master gave it, and there's Swamiji's handwriting in the margins of the paper with comments and things. Master had asked him, go through it, give your suggestions, and so on. So of course Swamiji knew, as he said, Master was wanting me to concentrate on it deeply. And so he put it to him that way. And we would see that sometimes with Swamiji. If someone came along sort of full of self-importance, like, well, I'm sort of interested in studying these teachings on a kind of probationary, terms, and we'll see if I find them effective for myself. And anyway, what do you have to say? So Swamiji would say something like, well, you might like to read this book that I wrote, and I'd be glad to hear your suggestions on it. Oh, abadiya, okay. Yeah. Suggestion 1, but it was because the person was clearly, open a little bit, but not very open. And so Swamiji, you could say, well, did he cater to the ego? Did he play to the ego? No. He put it in a way that they wouldn't feel the need to put up unnecessary obstructions. It was interesting. He said Master had a way of saying anything to anyone in just such a way that the person would remain open. And that's so important, because as soon as we close down, then there's a lot of work that has to be done. Either we have to do it ourselves to open our own hearts again, and or you find that you have to, if someone else is closed, you just have to let it be until they come around again. And so that's another reason why non-injury, which was our affirmation this morning, is so helpful. Because if we, even being too short with someone, too quick, too sharp, it can create a little hurt, and then it takes a little time to get back on track again. And if we always live that way, sort of taking the people around us lightly, you should know better, you should support me. And whereas to a stranger, oh, hello, oh, is that okay? I'm so sorry. To somebody we don't even know, all this consideration. Well, when we do that those hurts build up. And you may have been on one or the other side of this, or both. And if we're not careful, it can build up into resentment. Just sort of I'm just waiting to see when you're going to do it again. And as Swamiji said, injury, harmfulness, incites endless opposition. Unnecessary opposition. I remember Swamiji saying once of his father. His father was a geologist, and Swamiji was speaking that although there is this theory of plate tectonics and how the world was formed or how it works, he said there's also alternate theories. There's one not of gradualism, that the earth finally came into shape over millions and millions of years, but that it had sudden changes that made it form this way. And, whether it's a true theory or not, it's not that we have, historical documents. It's not that the plates were saying, yes, we formed, and this is my plate ID number, and we don't have a history that we can point to say, yes, we can prove it. So even if it is the most valid theory, and there's a lot of questions about it, and luckily it's not relevant for today's topic any longer, but I won't go into. I was never a big fan of geology, so I won't indulge myself in a whole geological discussion. But a competing theory Swamiji felt deserved a fair hearing. Why not say, well, this model has these sort of things that fit the facts. This other model, completely contradictory, fits the facts in this way, and so on. And so Swamiji's father just dismissed, this. And Swamiji said, well, but it has some points. And his father said, I think you should respect my opinion as a geologist. And Swamiji said, I do respect it as an opinion. And so then he said, we both quickly changed the subject to avoid a useless argument. And for some reason, that phrase has always kind of stuck in my mind, avoid a useless argument. Because how many times, if we're lucky, can we say, let me avoid a useless argument? Because again, what percentage of arguments are useless? 100%, probably. Most arguments in the home are about you're tired, I'm tired. That's it. How can you ask me to do it? I'm tired. I'm more tired than you. If at last I checked, I did all of this and you did about half of that. And besides, it's your turn. And you're tired, I'm tired. We're tired. Why not seek unity in tiredness? We are tired. We all are tired, or whatever. Maybe you're not tired, and I'm glad. So the thing is, just why have a useless argument? That's the problem when we're irritable. We end up we say more than we actually mean. In other words, we can speak harshly, we can speak unkindly, and we don't mean it. And that's the one thing the person remembers, is the thing that we didn't even mean. We didn't even really feel, but we just snapped. And so it's better then to find other ways. Again, this is a useless argument, I won't have it, or to have your very sharp, cutting, excellent, revenge points to your pillow, rather than to the person. Then you can come out, the person says, oh. No idea what bullets passed by them without touching them. And that's good, it's just better. Because again, otherwise there's a lot of mess. A lot of unnecessary complications which take a lot of time. That's one reason when you meditate is that you have more time for meditation in your life, because you spend less time arguing and then cleaning up after the argument for days sometimes. So anyway, to come back, as Master would say, that when Swamiji said something similar to me, as he said to this man, that do you need a guru? No, only if you want to find God do you need a guru. I had said to him, did Master envision that everyone who read Autobiography of a Yogi would eventually seek Kriya initiation into Kriya Yoga? Because for me, when I read that book, and that, Kriya, everywhere you look, Kriya Yoga, it just seemed that, if you read the book, you're going to want Kriya Yoga. I certainly did. And partly because of its promise that 30 seconds of Kriya Yoga practice can give you the same spiritual evolution as 1 year of proper and right living. And so take your pick, 30 seconds, 1 year. What if the past pandemic of 2 years was just 2 30 seconds? 1 minute. That would have been nice. Oh, there was a pandemic. Oh, was there? Yeah, it's over now. Okay. 1 minute instead of 2 years. Wow. So, so I asked Swamiji this. Would people take Kriya if they read Autobiography of a Yogi? Did Master think so? And he said, oh, no. I mean, as if to say, how could you even ask? He said, very few people actually want God. And again, to bring this to what I was saying before, what does it mean to want God? It means to want joy. It means to want peace. And those are things that actually everybody does want. You don't find someone saying, no, I don't want any peace. I mean, even if they're having an argument, it's usually saying, stop bothering me because it is upsetting me and I just want peace. You're disturbing my peace. And that's a lot of what an argument even is about. It is a trying to find peace, but I don't like what's happening right now. It's disturbing my peace. So we have to realize that peace is always within reach. Master said, through meditation you carry a portable paradise with you wherever you go. And you can always step into that. You can also take a few sips of that peace privately from within yourself. It takes a little while, sometimes, maybe a week or two, to start meditating, when you start meditating, to start to feel, oh my gosh, this has been there the whole time. Sometimes I would feel it on vacation. Sometimes I would feel it after, like, the completion of a successful project, or sometimes I would feel it after being saved from some fear or danger. But then we realized that peace is there, and we simply returned to it. As Master said, when we have a desire for something, we put a condition on our happiness. I used to be happy, but now that I want this, now I am not happy until I get this. And he said, and once that condition is fulfilled, we become happy again. Swamiji put it as a desire is like pinching ourselves. And then when that desire, and it starts to hurt a lot because I must have whatever it is, more Mysore pak. And then when that condition is fulfilled, we let go of the pinch and what a relief. But that's all we did. Sometimes, as I've told you, Dharmini and I will joke whenever something finally happens that we wanted to happen, we will say, unpinch. That's all it was. God was working the whole thing out, but because we were feeling attached to it or feeling that it should happen or concerned if it's for somebody else, that when it happens, with the joy of the unpinch. It's a way of laughing at that there was a pinch in the first place. But to have peace, to have joy, to have love, these are things everybody seeks. So in that sense, there's no question of those who need a guru and those who don't, those who want a guru and those who don't, those who are seeking God and those who aren't. We don't want to think in terms of separation and drawing a line and saying, I'm on this side and you are on that side. No. You know who draws lines and separates? Maya. That's what Maya even means. In a way, the measurer, that which says this is this and this is that, and they are not the same. So whenever we're drawing lines in the sand, we should quickly scuff them out, or you can say Master is on both sides. So why not we? There was an example in a public lecture during Master's lifetime. There was someone who had worked with him and then later and gone off and become a teacher on his own. A spiritual teacher. And in one of his lectures, this man's lectures, he asked, is there anyone from Self-Realization Fellowship in the audience? Any students of Yogananda in the audience? Please stand up. And so a few people stood up, and knowing his connection with Yoganandaji from the past, sort of expected maybe he would say nice things. Instead, he said the opposite. He said things all against Master, all against you're foolish to follow him. These are all, I am showing the true way and all these things. And so naturally they were furious and, to have done such a thing publicly against their guru. And they came to Master afterwards and they told Master what had happened. And he said, I will phone him. And they said, okay, so you go off to bed. So they went off to bed. And Master called the man and he said, thank you for all the work you're doing to spread the message of our masters in India. He didn't care at all. I'm so offended. Avatars getting offended. It's just so funny to think about it. Just like, just no. And he was finding something. Swamiji said Master could find the good in anyone. There might be somebody with so many difficult personality traits that was just bothering everybody, and Master would say, no, but he has such a good sense of humor. Or someone else, he's such a kind father to his children. And it's like, yeah, but we're not the children. And so to everybody else, no, Master, he made a point of that if somebody does something something strongly bad against you, he said one thing, then you remember just that thing and leave out all the good that person has done, whether to you or to others. And he said it's like a piano, like the harmonium, having one bad key. He said, just change the key. Don't say the whole instrument is bad. And he said, don't say that anyone else is bad, or you either, or yourself either. we're all in this together. We're all learning, we're all growing. Now, when I say we're in this together, it's wonderful when we have each other to be in this together with. I mean, as long as you're in the soup, it's nice to know that others are in here with you, also struggling to work it out. And maybe you can even help each other. That's what community is. That's one of the great gifts of it, and that we're all enjoying again after being separated by COVID. But the other thing is to remember that until we are in God, we're all more or less at the same level. We're all in kindergarten, you could say. Or we're all in high school if you don't like kindergarten, but kindergarten's a little more fun. But anyway, I was a kindergarten teacher, not kindergarten, but kindergarten science. And you have to have a different flow of conversation. I remember, saying something like, today we are going to learn about sort of the different kinds of animals, that there are reptiles and there are mammals, and someone said, can we learn about Pluto and Mars? Just, looking at my whole lesson plan and all the activities, perhaps next week, just sort of, you have to be able to, because the children are in the moment. And so you can't say, how dare you speak? Then they won't speak. But, that's not fair to them. That was one thing, too. I remember as a school teacher, I could speak in a very loud voice as long as I wasn't angry. And so, there's all this, children, and they go, but they would laugh, But when I was angry, if I got irritated at something they did, I tried very hard, and I think I succeeded, to just... because I didn't want them to hear that anger in my voice, because they would remember that, and then they would look at me a little more carefully, like children do once they've been shouted at enough times. And I knew from my own experience what that was like, and I didn't want to propagate that. But otherwise, I sometimes had to say, listen up, it's get their attention, but it was easy to do as long as I felt fine in my heart. And that's how Master was too. Sometimes he spoke very strongly. When I say Master was like that too, I mean like that infinitely amplified, way beyond whatever I was doing. But that he could be very strong and even sound very angry or harsh, but he was always at peace in his heart. He was just trying to convey a message that wasn't getting through any other way. Swamiji said, whenever Master scolded me, he said, which was not often, but if he did, Swamiji said, I saw regret in his eyes that he had to speak in such a way that I just couldn't get it any other way. And Master himself said, I prefer to just discipline with love. For those who are in tune with me, just a look in the eyes is enough. And he said, I just wilt when I have to work in other ways. Because of course that was his nature to be that way. But you can't just say, oh, watch out, I see you taking that fork over to the electrical socket. You might want to think about that. Just orimsha, you have to save the person, save the child before it's all over. So maybe not the best example, but the only one that came to mind, or the first one, I should say. So the feeling of wanting truth, wanting joy, that's something everybody wants. So in that sense, we should feel a unity with everyone. They're all seeking the same exact thing you're seeking. And so if you have somebody critical of the spiritual path, what are you wasting your time for? It's all fine to do that once you've turned 87, but before that you should earn all money and make sure to give me half or more. And then you have to say, look, why do they want all of that? Because they think that if they get that, then there will be peace. Then there will be joy. Then I don't have to worry anymore, and so on. And we realize that these things don't work permanently. They work for a time. Oh, very nice. But then it starts to wear off. Like we get a new beautiful thing, and it's so nice, and we love it, and we wanted it, and we got it, and it's, we're enjoying it. And then after some time, like a new car even, we start to get used to it. And we're not getting that same thrill just from the sight of it. So then we bring our friends, see my new thing. And they say, oh, wonderful. And so, yeah, right, it is. So we start to get a little bit of joy sort of through them for a while. And then after a while, it's just, neutral again. And we're looking for something else for that thrill. But seeking that thrill is something everybody has. And in time, people say, this didn't work, that didn't work, meaning forever. It worked for a time, but I want something permanent. I want something not dependent on outer circumstances. It's easy to be happy when everything is going fine. I used to sometimes look at people's astrological charts when I was reading a little bit about astrology, and people would say, well, if you're reading about it, can you read this, my chart? And so with great hesitation, I would sometimes look at it, and then after a few experiences, I stopped. But whenever someone said, what's going on with my chart, the answer was always the same. Shani. Saturn. Saturn is transiting over this. You are in a Saturn period. Saturn, Saturn, Saturn. Why? Because things were custom. That's why they were saying, can you please help? Nobody's chart I ever saw was full of Jupiter, full of Venus, it's all so wonderful. Because when that's happening, no one cares. No one asks. Yeah, it's Magrachi, huh? Ramba Santosha, huh? Yeah. Yen? Who cares, yen? It is. Or we say it is due to my own cleverness, or whatever. But when things are going well, we ask no questions. So when things are custom, think of it as also a blessing, because Master is saying, wake up. Not that we weren't awake. Please don't misunderstand. He's not saying, you're asleep, wake up. It's not coming that way. It's wake up more. Wake up to God. Wake up with me, because you can. I mean, if somebody has no hope of anything, for example, you go to somebody who doesn't know one word of Tamil and you recite all this Tamil poetry to them, they might be able to appreciate the sound of it, because poetry has a sound that is, anytime we hear a rhyme, for example, it's pleasing to the ear. So they might get something, but how the meanings weave together, all of that will be lost. And until they're capable. So you start with ka, ki, ku, or e, whatever you want to do to get them to see if they can get to the point of Vengayam and Takali and things like that before then going into poetry. Otherwise, you just can't bother with it because they're just not ready. And so in the same way, the guru doesn't bother with people if they're not ready. In other words, he helps them with their next step. Everybody has a next step. Nobody's lost, nobody's stuck. We may feel that way sometimes, but we always have a next step. There's always a way forward. There was one mother who brought many of her children to Master, and they all became disciples together. It wasn't that she forced them, but she herself, first her daughter came, then her sister came, then the two daughters came, and then the mother came, and the other children came along with her. And they were very devoted to Master, but her younger son, anytime Master would try to help him with something, with his attitude, he would say, "Mommy, he's scolding me." And so, in fact, Master used to call her Mahamata because of all that she had done. But then when he complained too much, the mother sided with the child. And after that, Master didn't call her Mahamata anymore. But when Master tried a few times and couldn't get through, he said, okay. And he just gave the boy a little toy airplane. And the boy said, and that was it for him. He fell in love with airplanes, and he grew up and became an airplane engineer, and that was his whole thing. And so Master saw that, okay, well, if he's not ready for this, then at least he can grow in this way. So, again, we should have an open-heartedness, a sense of charity, in the sense of charitable, not charity, but being charitable. Live and let live. Be happy with people wherever they are, because really, if their opinion of you is good, that's nice, as long as it stays good for a day or two. And if their opinion is not good, it doesn't change who you are. As Master said, praise cannot make me better, nor blame make me less. I am what I am before my conscience and God. And so, It doesn't mean if someone says, I don't like how you hurt my feelings, we don't say, I am what I am. No. We should be considerate of others too. We have to understand both sides of it. But ultimately, we are in this world to find joy, to find truth, and we realize over lifetimes that those can only be found in God. And then we come into the next lifetime, as this lifetime perhaps, with a sort of a default assumption that there must be more than this in this world, more than what I see in this world, and we start to seek God. And it's only because we're doing it from what we did before. We may come to our level 1 class with no intention to find God. And then something in us awakens, which is to say reawakens, and then we start to seek. And so that's really where the Guru's help comes in. You only need a guru if you want a guru. And you only want a guru because you want help. And what do you want help with? Finding God. Even the guru, beautiful and sacred relationship as it is a means to an end. I mean, if you meet a pilot of an airplane and say, please have a seat, have coffee, they'll say, fine. And then they'll say, all right, Polama? No, please. Also, you have some, jalebi, and then maybe do you want a nap? And the pilot is saying, it's all fine, but I can take you where you want to go. The plane is there, fueled and ready and waiting. Again, Polama. So that's what Master is saying, Polama. And so feel that and trust in that. And again, if somebody is, because Swamiji is addressing this reading to both sides of that question, if we feel in ourselves, well, maybe I don't need help in this way, that's a sure clue that we do. Because if we're having an egoic reaction, I'm not that way, then we have to say, wait, why the reaction? I mean, if someone says, don't you know that you're purple and have 3 heads? You'd say, do you have a mirror? Looks fine to me, or at least looks like it used to look. It's a ridiculous thing. So we have no charge around it. If someone says you have 65 toes, you'll say, I don't. They'll say you do. You say, well, you can say it all you want. It doesn't make it true. But if they touch us on a point that we're sensitive, then how can you say that? And I may have that, but what about you? And all this, that shows us that there's some part that needs healing there. It doesn't mean that the other person is right. It doesn't mean that it's fair, but that's really not our problem. Our problem is our problem. We have to work with ourselves. Other people have to work with themselves. God is working with all of us. That's why I say we're all in it together. Until we're in God, we're basically all at the same level. And the saints too, though, feel themselves. Someone asked Master, is there a difference between you and your followers? And Master said, it is only a difference of degree. Isn't that beautiful? He is a degree more merged with God, you could say, than we are, which is to say he is merged with God, and we are not yet. But that's not how he put it. He didn't say they are nothing until they are like me. No, it's just a question of degree. How much? As he said, the saint, if we're all waves on the sea, he said the saint is the little wave, the wave trying to be flat and one with the ocean surface. And it is the egoic person that is the big wave, saying, look at how I am separate, pulling away from the surface, crashing against other waves. Such a beautiful thought. Because when I first heard about that, I thought, well, the biggest wave would be the saint, because they're like the biggest thing. But no, little waves. And so let's be little waves in that. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you, oh, that's fine if you think so. No. Because we also want to act rightly. We want to act according to truth. If you let someone get away with all wrong things, how does that help the person? They just learn that they can do everything wrong and there's no problem, and probably they even feel a little guilty afterwards. But it doesn't compel us to be angry about it. And you have to judge each situation. Sometimes there's no point in speaking back because the person isn't listening. They're too upset. Wait till they're calmer, then talk. So in any case, I know you've answered this question for yourself, most of you. Do I need a guru? With yes, and also, in fact, these gurus. In fact, we're about to have a discipleship initiation in just a moment. But the thing to remember is that once we have our guru, then we walk the path together every day, checking in, celebrating. You can think of your discipleship anniversary, but you have a yearly anniversary, but you also have a daily anniversary of that, a daily celebration. Thank God I have help. And that help comes in many forms, through intuition from Master, through reading his words and having them make sense, having an impact on you, getting a special message from them, through others who are on this path. It may be that someone says something they're not thinking consciously of how it will help you, but it's just what you need to hear. You may ask a question. Just the vibration, just being with other disciples, other devotees, can be so strengthening. Again, non-verbally, we get this feeling of support, of connection, of harmony. And so again, let's celebrate it not only today for the new disciples, but also for each one of us for every day, for just saying, thank God, Master, thank God you're with me, thank God you're here, take me home.